Welcome to Yesterday, Today, Tomorrow. My name is Mariana Cordier, and I am your host. We are taping this show via Zoom since the MCM studio continues to be closed due to the pandemic. Today, we are discussing the impact racism has had on our nation, the continued resistance to equality, and the abuse committed by police. We will also discuss the impact of racial disparities in healthcare and COVID-19 in Black and Brown communities. Our guests today are Gloria Aparicio Blackwell, Director of Community Outreach for the University of Maryland, and Julieta Machado, Director of Immigrant Support Services for Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of Washington. Gloria, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm so glad to be here with you.
Yes.
Virtually, we're virtually.
Yes, virtually. Well, you know, the last couple of weeks have been incredible in this country between the pandemic and then the tragic death of George Floyd and what that has triggered in a response of addressing the issue of racism and the challenges the Black and Brown communities have had. I mean, this is nothing new, but it's finally, I think, even more open to discussion and debate than it has ever been before.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, it has been right now through the university. As you know, I work as in the Office of Community Engagement, and that has been a tremendous impact, not only for our work too, the way that we're doing the communications. Fortunately and unfortunately, the students are not with us. They are just in a virtual way, but we can hear how much these have impacted them throughout the social media, throughout all these channels where we get all the information, and seeing the amount of people protesting out there, for equal right, for the social injustice that is happening today.
And I thought it was so amazing when I was watching the protests in the different cities, and there were so many different people walking and joining the African American community. There was such a great show of support from Latinos and whites and Asians. I mean, it was really a time to be kind of proud. I mean, we should not be proud of the fact that we have to deal with this. It wasn't dealt with in the 60s with the Civil Rights Movement.
Yeah.
But I mean, kudos to our young.
Yes. I was so impressed to see the diversity of the group of people that were going down to talk about, to unite with the groups, with fighting for this injustice. And on top of everything, we had the pandemic. The pandemic hasn't gone away, still with us. And they decided enough is enough. Regardless of what we have, the restrictions, we're going to tell how we feel. We wanted to go out there and protest and say we need to do this differently. And this, I can see that the COVID-19 was one of the catalysts to get to jump of all of this, because people being so oppressed. These symptoms of this issue going on was kind of in the kind of underlining. It was in the underlining current. It was an undercurrent that decided we're going to go up.
Particularly because the African American community has suffered greatly with the pandemic, because it's really, when you hear the amount of deaths in Prince George's County and how multiple members of a family have suffered a loss, not just that they became sick, but a loss. Montgomery County has had quite a few, but not in the same way, I don't believe. So and this is all about that not having a good healthcare system. This is about not having a good education so where people can find better jobs. This is about not having access of preventive medicine. This is about many issues that are tied in with racism and social injustice. So if we continue carrying that, this is the way manifested. You have been doing this for 400 years. Now this is what is
at this moment, this is what is impacting. Not only here, because you also see in so many other countries that also are going into the discussions as well, how poor people are treated, how people that look different of the people of the power, how are they being treated? But here in the United States has been so intense that having us, the Latinos, the Asians, and everybody involved in the mix, they haven't had that tough conversation to address those issues.
Well, and particularly, I think what's amazing for the international community is that with all that the United States advocates, that, you know, is the defender of the weak and the unfortunate and all of that, to have this out that you hear the name of George Floyd in France and Britain and Russia and Argentina, where I'm from. And you know, when my family calls to ask about it, it amazes me because, you know, who would have thought that this would have reached so many all over?
Yeah, and then what I'll say to people is, because right now I see so many friends reaching out to the African American friends and say, what could we do? What could we do? How do we do this differently? And I said to myself, when I also wanted to reach out to that, I said, let me check myself first. What is it that I'm doing? Because we all have bias, regardless of what. We all have bias. So if we do, how do we treat that? How do we decide, okay, I'm not going to be using my bias for this situation or not using it at all? But if I do, how is it? Who am I mentoring? Who can I hire?
Step up, right?
How can I step up?
Remain silent, but
exactly.
To step up.
How do I defend how do I defend the voiceless? How do I be the voice for those individuals? Are we doing this? If you are not, then you start thinking about then I might have to do something different now, because I can see that clearly that can help.
Right. And to me, that strikes me as leadership. That is an example of leadership. And I think a lot of people will be surprised as time kind of evolves that they will realize that you don't have to be necessarily a politician, or you don't have to be someone with a title to be a leader and example on what to do or who to stand up for, you know, other folks' rights, and or to be treated with respect and decency. I just can't believe we have to actually talk about offering the ability to address and treat people with respect.
Yes, exactly. And also I wanted to say that the other thing that we need to be looking into is about, okay, what else can I do? Well, I talked about before, talking about census. I think my middle name is going to be Gloria Census Aparicio Blackwell, because that has been my mantra. And the other thing is voting. These are
so let me ask you, I'm going to feed you your line. So why does the census matter?
The census matter because that's resources. I always tell people, in 2010, $1 billion didn't come to the state of Maryland because it was undercounted. 360 million, out of that, $360 million Prince George's County didn't get for that. And if you see what that money brings to the table, what that money brings to the community is money for schools, is money for the health care, is money for transportation, is money for infrastructure, is the representation in Congress. Congress. Who's going to be representing you? Who has your back? Who is
supporting? Does that mean that it's important to also vote?
Of course, if you want to change what we have, you always have that power, regardless of how small your state is. Because sometimes you say, oh, it's the state of Maryland. My vote doesn't count. Yes, it does. And if you go to every local election, even better. So here is the opportunity for you to, what is it that you can do? Look who you are interacting with and helping and being part of their progress. And second and third is census, complete the census every 10 years. You get that. And it's until October 31st, you have a chance, but do it now. Do it now before you forget. And you do it by phone, by online, by mail. You can get that. I'm pretty sure if you haven't done it, 5 envelopes in your mailbox. Please check your mailbox. Sometimes I don't check that. So you do it. And then you will see that will be your level of contribution. You're contributing $1,800 per year for 10 years. You per se for completing that form for per person in your house. If there are 10 people in your house,
and I think one important point that you have made in the past that I'll raise now is that includes babies and children.
Babies from 0 to 100 and 100 plus, because I'm here, people 105, they counted too. And they might be seeing that they are seeing the lights out there at the end of the tunnel soon, but who knows? It could be here for another 10 years. So they need service.
And so what if someone tells you, I want to vote, but I'm scared of voting because of the pandemic and I don't want to expose myself? Are there any other options?
Of course, you have the absentees ballot. Don't believe that the mail is a fraud. It is not. It has been in place for many years. So you have that opportunity to send it by mail. There is a link. Oh my goodness, I should have had not the link in my head, but going to the Democratic, the voting,
the election. I think to the Board of Elections.
Board of Elections, that's what it is. The Board of Elections, and you will get it. And I will tell you that the university right now, as I mentioned before, we have a new president coming in. He is fantastic. He's our leader that for the first time, or we're going to say the second time, we have an African-American leader for our institution. Feel bad that he's getting at this point where we're going to see a lot of challenges, but great opportunities. I just learned that he's going to be in the committee helping to bring the students back, not only for the university, for also the Prince George's school system. So he's committed to the pre-K to 12, and that's our pipeline for our institution. So I'm excited to be working with them. I'm excited to get in the students. They are calling us to see how do we get involved in the community. We are partnering with the nonprofits, asking about what is it that we can help, that we can work together to help each other to be successful in our community. So capacity building is important and critical, so we're working on that.
That's amazing, Gloria, and congratulations to you and to the University of Maryland for all your hard work. And I look forward to seeing this new president that is going to be joining University of Maryland and all its students, and interesting times, and let's see how things go. We have to take a break right now, but we'll be right back with our next guest. And we're back. We know that Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of Washington has been in the forefront addressing many challenges facing the poor and immigrant communities by providing services and sharing resources. I'd like to thank Julieta Machado, who is here with us, is joining us on the Zoom show Yesterday, Today, Tomorrow, to talk about your work and how important and impactful it is to the community. So welcome, Julieta.
Thank you so much, Mariana. Happy to be here with you and giving me the opportunity to talk about our programs. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, on a normal day, in a normal time, you know, the work you do is super important, but with COVID-19, the pandemic, and everything else that's going on, what are some of the challenges that Catholic Charities is facing right now?
Oh, let me tell you, from in about 3 days, we had to move everything, all the services, plus the trainings online. So it was very, we had to do a lot of work. Also, as we were talking before, we from having 100 families food program, it went to 600 families from 1 week to the next.
Wow.
So even though we knew it was going to be, we were in crisis and it was going to be critical, we never imagined the impact that this was going to have in our community. Never. And well, thank God, we had a wonderful team and a lot of help, and we were able to jump in online with Zoom classes, with services online, and
so
with a wonderful.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about that, because I don't think people are as familiar with the trainings and classes that Catholic Charities provides. Can you explain some of what they are?
Yes, we provide several types of trainings, from English language to construction skills to bank teller skills, customer service, trainings in kitchen works, several types of trainings that are tailored, mostly in my programs, mostly to immigrants, so that they can improve their English skills as well as improving their working skills and attain a job, because of course the big portion of the training is job readiness and confidence building, and as you can imagine.
How difficult has it been to help people find employment when so many things are shut down?
It has been difficult in a way, but there are several jobs out there. There are several companies that are hiring, just that the jobs are different. The kinds of jobs are different. They're not, unfortunately, right now, we're not finding those career building jobs that we like for our clients. We're finding jobs where they can survive on for a little while, but there are some job opportunities out there. As a matter of fact,
that's great news. I mean, that's awesome that they're
yes.
available and stuff. What are some of the challenges that the immigrant community is having at this time that others may not be having?
Well, yes, there's many challenges. I would not say at a disadvantage, because I think they have a lot to bring in. They just need to understand the value that they bring into the communities that we live. But yeah, it's challenging because of the skills, of the English skills, sometimes of the computer skills. Although I have seen everybody jumping very quickly into attaining computer skills. I mean, so the necessity has obliged all of us to be more versed.
Right. Yeah.
Definitely.
You know, I had to learn, and that was challenging on electronics and technology. But what about, let me ask you, just to shift a little bit, you always hear the conversation about access to healthcare and the disparities, the racial disparities. What does that mean? When they say racial disparities to access to healthcare, what is that? Can you describe it for us or define it?
In the communities of color, there's definitely a lag in healthcare, in healthcare services, in being able to obtain the same services as everybody has. The coverage that many times they have jobs that don't have benefits and that don't have health coverage. And even though health insurance was becoming more affordable, it's still very expensive in many cases, and it has gotten expensive in the last year. So it's a big challenge. Many of them have to think between paying the healthcare and paying other very important things that they have at home, like the utilities, the rent, the food for the kids, medicine, etc.
And are there options for the immigrant community to have access to healthcare that is free or does not require health insurance, but is also, affordable?
There are options, and Catholic Charities has clinics that take people that don't have any insurance. But yes, the clients need to know that the services are there, and we unfortunately we cannot serve everyone that has a need. We are most of the time up to capacity.
Right, and I imagine that with the COVID-19, the pandemic, those services even more challenging to have access to them. What has been Catholic Charities' experience with regard to the testing? Are they part of helping or assisting with getting folks tested?
We currently are not part of giving of testing people, but we are referring people definitely to the testing sites. Yes,
That's
we are
good.
referring, and we're spreading the word that if they have any symptom, they need to be tested. They need to call their doctor. They need to, in the case of Montgomery County, they need to be calling 311 and the correct number so they get help. They get the help that they need. They should not stay at home and feel afraid that if they go to a hospital or if they call the county or if they, they're going to be, it's going to be something that it's going to end up being very expensive or they're not going to be able to handle it. They need to go out and get these services.
And what is Catholic Charities or your goals with regard to addressing some of these issues in the future, now knowing that we're exposed to pandemics and we're exposed to protests and all kinds of crises?
Yes. Well, we're always addressing we're always encouraging people and helping people get out of poverty and empower themselves and become self-sufficient, that their families are educated, that they understand their rights, that they understand what's out there in the community to help them out. Because there's a lot out there. Most of the times, what we see is that there's not enough, they're isolated, there's not enough communication, and they're not aware of what's available for them. But we do stress out every time we talk to a client, every time a client calls, we do stress out, listen, these are all your resources. You need to be educated. You need to know what's out there. You cannot just stay passive thinking that someone is going to come and help you. You need to also advocate for yourself. You need to learn to advocate for yourself.
And with regard to the issues that have thrown the country into a bigger crisis with the racism and the police brutality, has your base, your customers, clients, reported anything to you about issues in the area?
They have not, thank God, we have not heard anything. We imagine that there may be things, but we have not heard anything. We serve a big group of immigrants, which include the Latino population, the African immigrants, the Asian immigrants, and we have not heard anything from them. But we do know that there's many issues in the communities, definitely, yeah. And we're all, unfortunately, subjected to all these challenges or problems.
What about with immigration, with the visas and the applications and that sort of thing? Has there been a pause in the processes? Have you heard anything about folks?
Yeah, no, we're still helping people. We're still helping the cases that we were helping, and we're taking some new clients. Of course, there's a lot of people who are in the queue for receiving help. We've continued building the cases for the clients so that when everything is ready, they can go and present the cases. But we know that we need to help them in that. So, for example, making sure that they have all the documentation that they need, and just writing the case so that they can contest it in a court of law.
So we have, time flies fast when we do these shows. We have about 2 minutes left. And I wanted to ask you, at this time, I imagine that Catholic Charities and your department need volunteers. Do you guys need donations? What do you guys need in this crazy times?
We always need, yes. We always are in need of volunteers and of donations, but of course, these are very special times. And You can always go to our website, www.catholiccharities.dc, and look on the homepage. You can look for volunteer opportunities. There's also a tab on donations. You can click on that tab, and you'll see that you're going to be able to donate either in cash or in goods. For example, we are asking people to send food donations, like foods that are appropriate for the communities that we serve. Yeah, like
That's awesome.
And the rice that we like and all that stuff. So yes.
Well, that's awesome. And I have to say, I really admire and appreciate the work that Catholic Charities does and that you do. And I really appreciate you, Julieta Machado, and Gloria Aparicio Blackwell for being on the show today. I think these were really important topics to share with our audience. And so thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Mariana.
Sure,
yes.
sure.
And I have a last we are helping people online continually, but since we're not in the office, we're asking our clients to call this number, 301-453-5560, 301-453-5560. And that's a voicemail. They can leave their message and we'll return their call.
Okay, thank you. We can be seen on Yesterday, Today, Tomorrow on YouTube channel. And please check us out on Facebook and Instagram. I would like to thank our guests for joining me and our audience for watching us, and invite you to join us next week at the same time. I'm Mariana Cordier. Good night.